If we assume two same kind of objects that slide on a plane surface at the same time, and suppose, between one of those two objects and the surface, the friction is low, and the friction is high between another object and the same surface. So, which of those two objects do you think would slide on the surface with ease? Let's take it in a different language. Which one of those two objects do you think would be able to move forward without any hindrance? Certainly, all of us can figure this out easily that, according to the law of physics, the object that has the low friction between surface and itself would be able to move forward in an easier way without any hindrance. Cause, we know that, the friction is a kind of resistance, that means, a sort of impediment. Deep inside, the same thing is applicable on our lives as well, as far as we keep floating against the flow of life. In the same way, our life keeps going difficult. But here, there is a subtle thing that is required to be understood clearly, and that is, by advocating not going against the flow, I am not advocating not to resist any kind of wrongdoings, cause, not resisting or defying any sort of wrongdoings is as unjustifiable as doing wrong. I am just talking here about a way of life just like a dry leaf is. In the way, a dry leaf floats with the stream of water, without any resistance with the direction of water. It is a message to all of us, cause deep inside, that means no resistance with nature's direction. This not only saves the energy of that object, but also saves it from being broken. Suppose if this dry leaf tries to float against the flow of the water, then there is certainly no possibility of this leaf being able to change the direction of the water, but there is 100% possibility of this leaf being broken and shattered. In the same way, if a human lives in congruence with the commands of nature, then he not only erases any kind of obstructions between nature and himself, but also gets rid of any possibility of him being broken. Be it deliberately or inadvertently, a human faces any kind of hindrance in its life, only when any of his activities are against the laws of nature. We can understand this with a very simple example. Our body has a specific nature which is symmetrical to the ecology. Whenever we eat or drink something which is against the structure of our body, or not in consonance with the ecology, then it turns out to be detrimental for our body, and we fall sick, and it simply means that, if we go against the ecology or nature, it creates a disorder. Be it any type of pollution, water pollution, or air pollution, why does it disturb us so deeply? Cause, any kind of pollution is against nature and its laws. Except human beings, the activities of all other creatures are in accordance with ecology, and as a result, such kind of mental and physical disorders are not seen in them. So now, here we need to introspect that, why do we humans are stuck in such a situation in our lives? That our lives are deflected from the right path, and against the flow of the nature. And if we introspect, we would find that, there is really a reason, a fundamental reason, and the reason is that, a human is different from all other creatures. A human has an absolute different standpoint to see the life. One of the most common characteristics of a human, unlike all other creatures, is that, a human wants to create its identity, and wants to surpass all other people around him, so that, he could prove himself superior to them. And let's suppose, if a person starts living a lifestyle, which is absolutely in accordance with the nature, and is not affected by anyone else around him, then there is no possibility that, he would be able to prove himself distinctive or better than others. And due to this approach, it sounds must for everyone to do something, which directly or indirectly leads a lifestyle that goes against the flow of nature. But even if, due to deep aspirations of surpassing others, when one tries to follow a lifestyle against nature, then in the long run, he is certainly not benefited, but finds himself at loss, cause, when he tries to reckon the possible gain, then he finds it very trivial. Cause the total gain is not possible to be more than proving yourself superior to the people just like you are, which is neither a considerable triumph of life, and nor even is a sustainable benefit, cause there are millions, and millions of people, who have their own abilities, and that's why this conquest, in spite of being difficult, turns out to be futile. But now, if we try to reckon the loss, then it is undoubtedly not only certain, but also enormous, cause, it is never possible to defy the whole existence. This entire existence or ecology never changes itself due to any human or any creature. A person who floats with the flow, gets rid of many hassles of life. We all know one fact about this whole existence, that nothing is static in this universe, everything is variable or inconstant, and we all must have heard that change is the law of the universe. A human has many aspects in his life, and certainly not all the aspects can be liked by us in our lives. All of us do admire the stage of our childhood, adolescence and youth, and don't want to move ahead of them. The childhood and youth of every human are reminiscent and stay in the form of pleasant memories in our mind, cause. These are the stages when our mind and body are entirely sound and supportive to perform our desired activities, and certainly, none of us would want to lose these abilities, and this is when a resistance gets started with the nature. The reality is that, time is neither stagnant and nor even we can go back into the time which is a past now, and this infuses a gloom in the mind of a person. Everyone aspires to maintain the same abilities what he possessed during his childhood and youth, and no matter how hard one tries, it never becomes possible, and it infuses a disappointment in his mind. The reason of such disappointment is that, we want something which is against the laws of the nature. It is a customized approach, as we accept some aspects of life such as childhood and youth, and we outrightly refuse the phase of old age, as certainly, who would want to withstand the stage of debility? Perhaps none of us. But, even if you welcome all phases of life or not, you will have to accept them, but most of us draw a wrong inference of this acceptance. They assume the old age as an assured inability, but it's not true. Certainly there will be changes, change is the name of life, but it's not true that these changes would anyhow be distressing or agonizing for you. Certainly the stage of senility cannot be like youth, but you know, most of us miss a point here, and that is, any phase of your life substantially depends on your way of living and your habits that you have been having since childhood. If you have lived a lifestyle that has been against the laws of nature, then it is you who has destructed an amazing energy of life which was granted by nature. And if you really never have been a person with such habits, or a violating lifestyle, be it about food habits or other habits of wrong lifestyle, then it is impossible that the nature would fill your life with agony, cause nature never penalizes you for something you haven't done. A person who lives in harmony with nature conserves unimaginable energy of life, and never needs to face the agony as that person who violates the nature. There is one more thing worth mentioning, and that notion is pervasive everywhere, that often the person who lives in harmony with nature is taken as frail or timid, but it is not true at all, and not even this notion is correct, that that person has lower ability in comparison to others. On the contrary, reality is that that person better understands this truth, that one cannot prevail the laws of nature, and he prefers to live a life in congruence with nature, and eventually attains the stage of oneness.